like to introduce Stephanie Nielson, owner of Chatham Park Barre3. She's enthusiastic about inspiring others to love, appreciate, and celebrate healthy bodies and diverse body types. Please put your hands together for Stephanie Nielson.
Can I sit on the chair?
Yeah.
Very nice to be with all of you here today. I would like to just share a little bit about my story, and even though it's my story, I have to write it down, or I forget things, or I don't stay focused. So, my name is Stephanie Nielson. My husband Christian and I are opening the fitness studio called Barre3. A little bit about me: I was born and raised in Provo, Utah. I was the 8th of 9 children. I grew up spending my summers at Lake Powell in southern Utah and skiing in the winter at Sundance, the ski resort that I eventually became an instructor, ski instructor there, and I taught my children to ski there. The summer after I graduated, I met my husband Christian, originally from Mesa, Arizona, while attending Brigham Young University in Provo. We were married after a quick 3-month engagement in December of 2000. While Christian finished up school, I started my full-time dream job as a homemaker, and we welcomed our first baby 11 months after we were married, and then we had 3 more just following right after that. We moved to New Jersey after college, and it was a great time of our life then. But then eventually we moved to Mesa, Arizona, where Christian was born and raised, and I just call those years as my golden years. They were the best. I started teaching yoga. We paid off our student loans. We had a great job. We bought a cute little house. And then in August of 2008, everything changed. I remember that morning, I woke up early, and I made pizza dough, which is what a family tradition. I always made pizza for our family on the weekends. And so it was this long rise pizza dough recipe, and I woke up and I made that, and then we dropped our 4 kids off at Christian's parents' house in Mesa to watch them. So the 2 of us could go we have a ranch in New Mexico. And we flew Christian was a pilot, and we flew the airplane to the ranch. And on the way home, what pilots called high, hot, and heavy. After refueling our airplane, the plane crashed about on takeoff. And I remember thinking as the airplane was going down that I couldn't believe it, that this could be the way that it ends for me. It was just really very surreal and very, very scary. But I remember closing my eyes during that time, and I could see my 4 children. Claire was our oldest. She was 7 at the time. Jane was 6. Oliver was 2.5, and Nicholas, my baby, was just 18 months. And I remember thinking how horrible it would be to leave these children orphans. And it's kind of amazing what you think about in those moments. And I just remember thinking how horrible I was feeling, and also that I didn't want them to remember. I didn't want them to think about me dying that way. It was a very scary moment. But on impact, we were both knocked unconscious, and then burning in this airplane that just had exploded on impact. Miraculously, though, we were both of us to get out of the airplane, and we were both taken life-flighted to one of the biggest and best, I think biggest bird centers in North America, in Arizona, in Phoenix. And then I woke up about 5 months after that, after being in a medically induced coma. And I woke up to the news that I was burned over 83% of my body, mostly 3rd and 4th degree burns. 4th degree burns go through all layers of your skin and the underlying tissue as well, and sometimes can affect your muscle and your bone. Christian was burned about 40% of his body and sustained a broken back. Doctors advised my family that the chances of me losing all of my limbs were very high, especially my legs. Because I was burned 80% of my body, and because you can only donate your own skin to yourself, doctors would take little samples of my skin and send it to a lab in Boston, where they would grow in an incubator and then they would bring it back. And often my body would reject these little skin samples, and which is why I was in a coma for so long. When I woke up, it took me months before I understood the seriousness of this situation. And I started every kind of therapy possible. Therapy for my brain, for my body, for my heart, for communication. And I hated it. I hated everything. I was grateful that I was alive, but I knew that I was a 100% miracle from God, that I was alive, but I was also just furious. Most days after I was awake from the coma, I really wished that I had died. Because of what would I be good to anyone now? I couldn't even eat by myself. I needed help going to the bathroom. I couldn't imagine what kind of life that I would lead. And in the quiet moments moments when I was alone in my hospital room, I started to fantasize about cleaning my toilet at home, because then my knees would freely bend. I thought about vacuuming the floors with my 18-month-old grabbing my legs, my arms pushing the vacuum, or loading the dishwasher, holding slippery dishes, and feeling the water drip down my hands and my arms. I remember thinking about changing diapers in the nursery, feeling the ceiling fan on my back, on my neck, one hand holding the baby down and the other hand grabbing wipes like it was no big deal. Making beds, grasping the sheets up to the top of the headboard and then throwing all kinds of stuffed animals on top. And then there was me thinking about me walking outside in the hot Arizona sun, my face feeling the sun. I would water the flowers and in my garden. And then I would go into my laundry room and pull fresh clothes out of the dryer. My fingers folding the shirts easily, onesies, skirts, little boys' shorts, Christian's work clothes into little piles. It was beyond easy for me. It was routine. Then I daydream about me on the couch. 2 kids on my left, 1 kid on my right, 1 on my lap, and the dog at my feet, reading books. My fingers turning the pages effortlessly, with my kids leaning, pushing, pulling, crowding all over my body, my glorious, strong, healthy body. My body, the couch. My body, the shield. My body was to create, to feed, to nourish babies. My body, the warm landing spot for sad or tired or happy or clingy children. My absolutely incredible body. Now I lay in the hospital bed, wrapped up in layers of bandages, with tubes running in and out, to a noisy machine next to me, feeling constant pain and disappointment. I was unable to move, unable to feel. I was empty, a shell of once a vibrant, beautiful 27-year-old. I promised myself that I would never take my body and its capabilities for granted ever again. Walking to the mailbox sounded better to me than visiting the Taj Mahal. Any imperfections that I thought that I had, I take over again and again if it meant that I could have a body that worked. In one of my first physical therapy sessions in the hospital, my therapist knew how badly I wanted to go home, but I wasn't hitting any of the marks that I needed to prove to function so that I could get home. My body wasn't healthy enough yet. In my previous physical therapy sessions, I was despondent and frustrated. One afternoon, she asked me why I wanted to get better. And she said, "Do you want to get better?" And I said, "Of course I want to get better." And she said, "Why do you want to get better?" And I said, "Well, I want to get back to being a mom." And then she asked me what I missed the very most. And I said, I just miss putting my baby on my hip, walking around and doing things. And she said, "Okay, what else?" And I said, "Oh, I miss getting down on the ground and playing trains with my boys and dolls with my girls." And so we started working hard doing those exact things so that I could get home. I'd walk around with weights. I would practice getting down onto my knees. And for me, everything changed then. And I transitioned from merely working out with a purpose to reclaim my role as a valuable woman and a present mom. The next months after being released from the hospital were some of the most challenging days of my life. I was sent home with all kinds of medications and apparatuses to help with my pain and anxiety, but I was not prepared to have a broken heart every single day when I'd look in the mirror and not even recognize myself. I was not prepared for my baby to run away from me and run to the door and scream for his mom. I didn't blame him. I wasn't her anymore. I wasn't anything like her. I wanted to run to the door and open it up and run away too. Only I couldn't do it either because I was too short. Not because I was too short like he was, but because my hands literally didn't work. For the next 3 years, I was frequently going back to the hospital for follow-up surgeries. And after a surgery, where I stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks, Christian brought me home and laid me on the couch in our living room. I was bandaged from head to toe again. I was uncomfortable, I was depressed, and I just remember feeling pain all the time. It was just all too familiar feeling. And I looked out the window in my backyard, and there was a cherry blossom tree that was blooming bright pink. And my kids were on the trampoline. And then something changed in my heart. And I asked Christian to bring me a piece of paper. With the penmanship of about a 5-year-old, I managed to scribble a little list. This list was everything that I wanted to do again. Things that I loved to do. The things that I enjoyed doing for my family and for myself. First, it was simple things like open up a book and read to my children like I used to do, tying a shoe, packing a lunch, going to the bathroom by myself, starting to write again, taking photos of myself and not hating them. I hated them. I wanted to go hiking in the mountains again. I wanted to smile and genuinely mean it. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to get off all of the medications that I was on. I wanted to drive a car fast. I wanted to run. I wanted to go skiing again. There were over 50 things on that to-do list. And the last thing I crossed off on that to-do list was to have a baby. I was determined no matter what anyone said, and under the care and careful watch of my burn surgeons and doctors in April of 2012, about 4 years after the initial accident, we did welcome our 3rd daughter and our 5th child, Charlotte. She had bright red hair and she was born perfect and healthy. Then after that, I started hiking again. There we had mountains in our house, behind our house, and I started to hike. Every day I was getting faster and stronger. I was more efficient. Pretty soon I started running in the mountains. And one morning on this daily hike, I saw another regular like me who hiked this mountain every day on this trail. She was a little older and a little bit slower, but she always made it to the top. I would always pass her going up and pass her coming down, but one day I passed her going up, we waved, and as I was coming down, she motioned to me to take my earphones out. So I did and stopped, and she said to me, "Oh my goodness, if only I had your strong legs, I could make it to the top so much faster." And I smiled and I thanked her. I think we probably even hugged. And as I was running down, I can't tell you how grateful I was to hear that. I appreciated her words of kindness and encouragement, probably more than she will ever know. If only she knew that just a few short years earlier, I couldn't even stand. I couldn't even stretch my legs without my skin ripping off. And she only knew the bleeding and the surgeries and the therapy that I endured. If only she knew the thousands of tears that I shed every day while recovering and pushing myself harder and harder to get better. And the billions of prayers that I offered up to God to sustain and carry me when my legs couldn't. My strong legs have been through a lot, yet they have carried me up all kinds of hills and mountains, day after day. I understand that they might not be considered attractive to us, but they are my legs and they work perfectly. Now, almost 17 years out, Christian and I have moved our family here to this beautiful place in North Carolina, where Christian is developing software to manage land and cattle, raising and selling beef from our own farm here in Chatham County. And by now, I have successfully crossed off everything I have written on that to-do list, plus so much more. With every milestone that I have hit, it brings me so much confidence. If I could do that, what else could I do? Christian and I were invited to join a few other burn survivors to hike Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. I was all in. The hike was made into a really inspiring documentary that follows the lives of several other burn survivors, including us, and our experience hiking this daunting mountain. It took us 7 days to reach the top. I so often see my accident as a mountain filled with inherent challenges. In a metaphorical sense, mountains represent our lives. The life when we face obstacles that seem overwhelming at first, yet these difficulties can lead us to profound growth. By confronting and overcoming these struggles, we can improve ourselves and enrich our understanding and compassion for both ourselves and others. Our life's mountains can often tempt us to give up. They can terrify us. They test us. They try us. Mountains stretch us. They break us down. But they can speak to us and inspire us, build our faith, give us hope and determination with every step that we take, big or small. They teach us how amazing we are and what we can overcome. I have a file on my computer called Inspiration. Inside this file are hundreds of my medical photos taken of me during my hospital stay from day 1 to day 152. The purpose of these photos were to help the medical staff monitor my progress. A few years ago, I requested these photos from the hospital because I wanted to witness the miracles and see God's hand in my recovery. They're incredibly scary. But to me, they're beautiful. I see beauty and strength and bravery. I think the photos are truly inspiring. Before Christian and I left for the hospital on our way to Africa to hike Kilimanjaro, I accessed the file, selected, and printed the worst photo of myself. That was on day 9. The best word to describe it was raw. There's nothing left of me. No identifying features besides my red painted toenails. I put the photo in a baggie and slipped it in the back pocket of my pack. Just knowing that the photo was there inspired and motivated me to keep going, to keep climbing. And when I got to the top of the mountain, I pulled the photo out and I showed it to my surgeon, the same surgeon who had saved my life the day that I was there. And I said to him, "Do you remember this girl?" And I said, "Look at her now." Together we cried tears of joy. We had come so far. We hugged and we thanked God for our remarkable accomplishment, for our healthy bodies, strong legs, and for the physical mountains that taught us so many lessons. When I started doing Barre3 in 2019, I loved it because I was moving my body in practical ways. When I was moving my legs in a narrow athletic V, I was strengthening my calf muscles so I could continue to march up the stairs at my house with a basket full of my boys' laundries. This time the basket is a little bit heavier than it was before the accident, when my boys were so much smaller. It now holds my big boys' work clothes. And instead of picking up toys from the floor, I find size 11 shoes and backpacks filled with books. I see wrappers and soda cans underneath the couch. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not Snow White floating around my house cleaning up after my very capable and able children. But my heart is infinitely more grateful for a healthy body, knowing that if I want to, I can bend down and pick it up. We're pushing the weights behind my back, doing tricep kickbacks, because I know that I'm conditioning my arm muscles to stay strong so I can carry the grocery sacks in from the car and then prepare and feed my family, something I love to do. And it's so much better to do that with energy and a healthy body. We're stepping out wide into horse pose while raising my heels to keep my legs strong so I can help Christian outside, moving our cattle from one pasture to the next. And then there's me holding plank to keep my core steady and strong for balance as I grow older. I want to have the mental and physical capacity to travel with Christian, to ride our motorcycles, and grow old together. I work out and take care of myself because I have a profound sense of gratitude for my body and all that it's been through. And because there are more mountains that I want to climb, grandbabies to hold, hands to shake, arms to lift, and I can't do any of this without strength. I'm proud of the many stages that my body has been through, the ups, the downs, the changes. Women's bodies especially go through so much change. But we show up for ourselves by taking care of our bodies, because then we can take care of others, our families, our children, our loved ones, our neighbors, our communities. It's a beautiful privilege. I've always loved and admired the fairy tale of the majestic phoenix and its rebirth, renewal. The phoenix to me is a symbol of resurrection, of hope, of endurance, transformation, because it literally rises from its own ashes and starts a new life. If someone had told me after my accident, during the time when I was at my lowest, feeling incredibly depressed and weak, in my mind, in my body, and in my spirit, that one day I would be happy again, that I would walk again, that I would see joy and beauty all around me and in myself, that I would be loved and I would love again, when I felt so unbelievably lacking, that I'd have the honor of having another baby to add to my already beautiful family, to have and keep and nurture a very loving and strong marriage when the statistics said otherwise, write a memoir and have it be on the New York Times bestseller list, receive an honorary doctorate at UVU, meet Oprah, stand on the highest single freestanding mountain in the world, or open up my own Barre3 franchise here in North Carolina, and work with amazing people that have helped me, and me being able to help others move and love and appreciate their bodies as a job, I would have never believed them. So as it turns out, this story of the Phoenix is actually mine. And I'm grateful for all the things that I have learned along the way. And I'm grateful to be here speaking with you today and sharing a little bit of my story and my family's story. Thank you so much.